The power didn't just go out. It died. And right as the house fell dark, I heard breathing that wasn't mine. Not loud, not rushed, slow, measured. I froze with my hand still on the light switch, staring into a room that no longer existed the way it had a second ago. The refrigerator hum cut off mid-note. The ceiling fan wound down with a hollow click click dash click dot. Silence rushed in too fast. That was the first thing that felt wrong. Then the breathing stopped. Beat too suddenly. I told myself it was just the quiet playing tricks on me. Power outages do that. They change the way sound moves. They make normal houses feel empty and wrong. I stood there for a few seconds longer than I should have, waiting for the power to flicker back on, waiting for the hum, the light, anything. Nothing happened. I reached for my phone. The screen lit up my hands and nothing else. No bars, no signal. It's just a notification banner stretching across the top. Area-wide outage reported. Okay, that should have been comforting. It was not, because right under it, okay, there was a missed call. No number, no timestamp. Just unknown. My chest tightened. I hadn't heard the phone ring. I would have noticed. Okay. The house had been dead silent. I lowered the phone slowly and listened. That's when the sound came. Back dot from the hallway. A soft drag. Okay, like fabric brushing against carpet. I turned my head, squinting into the darkness. The hallway felt longer than it should have, swallowed by shadow. The open bedroom door at the end looked like a hole punched into the house. Hello? I called, hating how thin my voice sounded. No answer. The dragging sound stopped. Beat. I laughed under my breath. Nervous, forced. Get it together, I muttered. Old houses make noise. Cooling pipes, settling walls. I took one step forward. The floor creaked, loud, sharp, like it was warning something. That's when I realized I couldn't hear the neighborhood anymore. No distant traffic, no dogs, no generators kicking on. Just my breathing and something else. A faint electrical buzz. It wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from the hallway. I followed it. Phone held out in front of me like it could protect me. The beam caught the edges of picture frames, the corner of a table, the banister leading upstairs. Everything looked normal, too normal. Halfway down the hall, its buzzing stopped. Beat the air, felt heavier there, thicker, like stepping into a room where someone had just been standing too close. I noticed the smell then. Burnt plastic, hot metal. It's the kind of smell you get when something's overloaded. The breaker box was at the end of the hall, tucked into a small utility closet. I told myself that's all this was. Blown fuse, simple, fixable. I reached for the closet door. It was already open, just a crack. I hadn't left it like that. My phone light slid inside, illuminating the breaker panel. Every switch was down. It's every single one. That didn't make sense. Outages don't trip individual breakers. Okay, they kill everything at once. I swallowed and reached out anyway. Before I touched it, click. One switch flipped up by itself. The buzz came back. Louder now. Closer. My hand snapped back like I'd been burned. My heart hammered so hard it made my ears ring. No, I whispered. No, no. Another switch flipped. Then another. Each one slow, deliberate, like fingers pressing them up. Backed away, my heel catching on the carpet runner, and nearly went down. The phone light wobbled, casting wild shadows that jumped along the walls. The buzzing grew into a hum. Not power. Voices, low, layered, too many to count. I slammed the closet door shut and stumbled backward, breathing hard. The hum cut off instantly. Silence poured back in. Beat. I stood there, shaking, telling myself I was imagining things. Stress, darkness, fear filling in gaps. That's when the upstairs, light turned on. Just one at the end of the hall. A warm, yellow glow spilled from the spare bedroom. painting the carpet in a soft rectangle of light. I stared at it. The power was out. My phone buzzed. Another call. Unknown. I didn't answer. The light upstairs flickered. Once, twice. Then it steadied. Something moved across it. A shadow passed through. The doorway, tall and thin, blocking the light for just a second longer than it should have. My legs finally listened to my brain. I ran, not upstairs, away from it. Into the living room, slamming the door behind me and twisting the lock with shaking hands. The windows stared back at me, black mirrors reflecting my own panic. The hum started again, this time from inside the room. The TV screen flickered on. No image, just static. White noise filling the air, loud enough to make my teeth buzz. I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. Shapes moved inside the static. Not clear, not solid. It's like silhouettes pressed against glass from the other side. The voices came with it. Not words, breathing in. Sync. My phone vibrated again. A voicemail, time-stamped. Now, I didn't want to play it. I did anyway. Static filled my ear, then the sound of a breaker, flipping dot, click, then my own voice, calm, familiar. It's easier if you don't fight it. I dropped the phone. The TV went black. The room light snapped on all at once. Every lamp, every fixture, too bright. I squeezed my eyes shut, tears streaming down my face. When I opened them, again the furniture was wrong. Couch shifted closer to the wall. Chairs angled toward me. The front door slightly open, even though I knew I'd locked it earlier, and standing in the doorway, something blocking the hall light. It didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood there, swallowing the brightness behind it. The power clicked off again. Darkness right next to me. I felt heat at my shoulder. Not a touch, just presence. A whisper brushed my ear. We don't like the dark either. The lights came back on. The room was empty. The door was closed. The house was quiet. I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, my body finally giving out. I stayed there until morning, every light on, every door locked, flinching at every sound. When daylight finally filled the windows, everything looked normal again. The breaker panel was fine. No calls, no voicemail, no outage listed anymore. I almost convinced myself it hadn't happened. Almost. Until I noticed something burned into the plastic of the breaker box. A single switch, melted, halfway up, stuck in the on position. And sometimes, late at night, when the power flickers, I swear I hear the house inhale, like it's waiting for the dark again. The power cut out so cleanly it felt intentional, and a second later, something heavy walked across the floor above me. Not a creak, not a shift-type footsteps. I stood in the kitchen holding a glass of water, watching the overhead light die mid-flicker. The refrigerator clicked once and went silent. The clock on the microwave blinked, then went dark. The footsteps stopped, beat too perfectly. I didn't move. The house felt different immediately, like it had changed rules the moment the power left. The air pressed closer to my skin. Sounds didn't travel the same way. I lived alone. The upstairs was empty. I waited for the usual neighborhood noise to fill the gap. Distant generators, people shouting, dogs barking. Nothing, just a low ringing in my ears and the sound of my own breathing, suddenly too loud. Then my phone buzzed. No signal. Battery at 72%. But the flashlight turned on when I tapped it, throwing a narrow cone of light across the kitchen floor. The glass had cracked in my hand. I hadn't realized I was squeezing it that hard. I set it down carefully. Another sound came from upstairs. This time, slower. One step, then another. I told myself it was the house settling. Temperature drop. Power. Outage logic. Anything normal? I climbed the stairs anyway. Every step groaned under my weight. each one sounding like a warning. The flashlight beam shook slightly as I reached the top. The hallway was empty, doors closed, bathroom light off, spare room, dark. The footsteps were gone. I exhaled, longer than I meant to. "That's it," I whispered. "You're losing it." I turned to go back down. The generator kicked on. The lights didn't come back, just a generator. A low mechanical rumble from outside, steady and loud, vibrating through the walls. That was wrong. I hadn't turned it on yet. I always waited a few minutes during outages, just in case the power came back on its own. I hadn't gone outside. I went to the window at the end of the hall and pulled the curtain aside. The yard was dark except for the faint outline of the shed where the generator was stored. The door was open. My stomach dropped. The generator light was on, running. I stared at it, my mind refusing to catch up. I hadn't touched it. I knew the startup sequence. It took time. Switches, fuel valve, choke. You couldn't just turn it on. Something moved near the shed. The flashlight beam jumped as my hand jerked. Nothing there, just shadow. I backed away from the window, slowly. Beat. That's when the lights upstairs turned on. Not all of them, just one. The spare bedroom. Soft yellow glow spilled under the door. The generator didn't power the house like that. It only fed essentials. Fridge, a few outlets. It's not the upstairs lights. I stood there staring, my chest tight, my thoughts tangled. A soft click came from inside the room, like a lamp switch. I took a step back, then another. My phone vibrated again. Incoming. Call. Unknown. I declined it. The call came back immediately. I declined it again. The spare bedroom door creaked open. Just an inch. Light spilled into the hallway, stretching toward my feet. I didn't look inside. I turned and ran downstairs. The living room felt smaller than it should have. Furniture looming in the flashlight beam. The generator's hum seeped through the walls, steady and patient. Something knocked, not on the door, on the wall. One knock, then silence. Beat. I pressed my back against the wall, heart hammering. The knock came again, lower this time, like someone testing where I was standing. "Stop," I whispered. "Just stop." The generator surged. Lights flickered on across the room. Too bright. The TV turned on by itself. Static. The same layered hum underneath it, like voices trapped in the noise. "Hey." Shape formed in the static. Not clear. Darker movement, pushing against the white dot. My phone buzzed again. Voicemail. I didn't want to listen. I did anyway. The generator filled my ear. Then a voice, not mine, to calm. "It's safer when the lights are on." The TV snapped off. The room lights stayed on and the knocking started upstairs, fast. Now, room to room, door to door, like something checking each one. Learning. I bolted for the back door, fumbling with the lock. My hands shook so badly, I dropped the keys twice. When I finally wrenched it open, cold night air slammed into me. The generator sat 10 feet away, roaring. The shed door swung gently in the breeze. I stepped toward it, every instinct screaming not to. The ground felt uneven, like it dipped closer to the shed inside. The generator vibrated violently, and behind it footprints, wet, fresh, leading from the shed to my house. I backed away slowly. The generator sputtered, coughed, then shut off. Instant silence. The house lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Something exhaled behind me, right at ear level. "You shouldn't turn it off." I ran. I don't remember getting to my car. I don't remember starting it. I drove until the road blurred and my chest burned from breathing too fast. Slept in a gas station parking lot with the lights on. When I went back the next morning, the power was restored. The shed door was closed. The generator cold. No footprints. No missed calls. No voicemail. I told myself. It was fear until that night when the power flickered and my phone buzzed. Unknown. The voicemail was one word long. Again. The power went out while something was standing in the hallway, and I only realized it because the shadow didn't disappear with the light. The TV cut to black. The fan died mid-spin. The room dropped into darkness so fast it felt like my eyes slammed shut on their own. But the shadow stayed. I froze on the couch, heart pounding so hard it made my ears ring. I hadn't heard footsteps. I hadn't heard a door open. 1 second, the hallway was empty. The next second, there was a shape blocking it. Not solid, just darker than the dark around it. I held my breath. The shadow didn't move. That was worse. I told myself it was just my eyes adjusting. Let shadows play tricks when the power cuts out. I counted silently. 1, 2, 3. The shadow leaned just slightly. My stomach dropped. I reached for my phone, hands shaking, and turned on the flashlight. The beam sliced through the living room, jumped to the hallway. Nothing. Empty. Clean. The shadow was gone. I laughed once, a sharp, broken sound. Okay? I whispered. Okay. That's when I realized something else was wrong. The street outside was silent. No generators, no car alarms, no distant voices, just the sound of my breathing and a faint ticking noise somewhere in the house. I stood up slowly, scanning the room with the flashlight. The ticking grew louder near the hallway. I followed it, each step cautious, every muscle tight. The ticking stopped when I reached the hallway. Beat 2 exactly. I aimed the light down the hall. Bedroom door closed. Bathroom door open. Spare room dark. The ticking started again. Behind me, I spun around. The clock on the wall had started ticking again, but its face was dark. No power, no batteries. It shouldn't have been moving at all. The second hand twitched forward, then stopped. My phone light flickered. Once, twice. I backed away, my shoulder brushing the wall. The hallway felt narrower than before, like it had stretched when I wasn't looking. I tried the light switch. Nothing. I tried it again. Still nothing. But I heard it. A soft shift, like bare feet adjusting on carpet right behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Hello? I said, hating how thin my voice sounded. Silence, then a breath. Not loud, not close enough to touch, just close enough to hear. I bolted for the bedroom, slamming the door behind me and locking it. The darkness inside felt heavier, thicker, like it pressed against my chest. The phone flashlight steadied. For now, I sat on the bed, knees pulled in, staring at the door. I waited for knocking, for footsteps, for anything. Nothing happened. Minutes passed, maybe more. I started to calm down. My breathing slowed. My hands stopped shaking. That's when the phone vibrated. No signal. No bars. Just a notification. Motion detected. My security camera app opened on its own. The feed showed the living room. Empty. The camera switched views. Kitchen. Empty. The camera switched again. Hallway. The feed glitched. Lines tearing through the image. Then it cleared. Something stood at the end of the hallway. Tall, still tall, facing the bedroom door. The time stamp flickered live. I stared at the screen, my pulse roaring. The thing didn't move, didn't sway. It didn't breathe. The camera zoomed in slightly, not smoothly, in jumps. The phone vibrated. Again. Low battery warning, I whispered. No. The screen went black. The room plunged into total darkness. I heard the lock click. From the other side of the door. The handle turned slowly. Testing once, twice, then stopped. I pressed myself against the headboard, barely breathing. My ears strained for any sound. The power came back on. Lights blazed to life. The fan started spinning. The TV downstairs turned on, blasting static through the house. The door handle was still. I waited. Nothing happened. Minutes passed again. Eventually, I stood up and opened the door. The hallway was empty. Every light was on. Every clock reset to 12 o'clock. I checked the camera footage later. There was nothing there. No shadow, no figure, no glitch. Just one thing. The motion alert log, time-stamped exactly 1 minute after the outage. Movement detected. Bedroom. I didn't sleep in that house again. I moved out a month later, but power outages still follow me, and every time the lights go out, I stop moving, because whatever it was, it always knew when I did. If you're still listening, check the comments. I want to know something. When your power goes out, do you ever feel like the dark is watching to see what you'll do next?